All right, Sean Zattel, FightHype.com here with one of the best young guys in all of boxing, Joey Spencer, 10-0, undefeated at super welterweight, set to fight Sean West this Saturday on Fox, live on Fox. Joey, how you doing?
I'm real good. I'm feeling great, and I'm just enjoying my time here in the bubble.
You look healthy, man. Like you're not hurting yourself to make weight.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've had a great weight cut. Feeling good, so everything's went according to plan this camp. So I'm ready to fight. Only a few days out, so.
Now I got to start, man. Haven't you worked with Shawn Porter in the past? I know he's the main event this Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to his gym. I spent some time out in Vegas when I was 16. That's when I met his dad for the first time. His dad watched me spar a couple times, and then from that point on, I've been on his card before, and I've just been around those guys quite a bit. So I've developed a cool, little friendship with Shawn and his dad, and they're really cool. And my dad's able to call Coach Kenny, when he needs to ask some questions or get some advice and things. So, and he's always really, gracious with his time and always takes the time to answer any questions we need. So it's a big help, and I really appreciate those guys.
You ever work with Shawn? You ever spar with him?
Never sparred Shawn. Never got the chance to. Nope. I've been out there one of the times that I went out there and I was hoping to, he wasn't actually in camp, and it was between fights. So I never ended up sparring with Shawn.
I know you fought and got a good knockout on the undercard of that Spence fight. Did you think
Yes.
Shawn won that fight? How'd you score that fight?
Yeah, actually, when I watched it in live, I thought I had picked Shawn to win the decision, and I actually thought from where I was sitting, I actually thought from a wider margin, a few rounds. And then when I rewatched the fight, you could kind of see more clearly what was going on, and I realized how close it was. But I think that fight could have gone either way. But it did show, like, even when Porter was mauling Spence on the ropes and things like that, whereas when you're in the crowd and you can't see all the punches being landed or not being landed, it looked like Porter was just mauling him for most of the fight. When you watched the fight, you saw Errol did a really good job with his defense and the punches he was picking and in his shot selection and things like that. But Porter landed a lot of shots himself too. And I think it could have gone either way, and it ended up going Errol's way, like a lot of times it does in Shawn's career in these close fights. So
it's interesting, though, because I kind of saw the same thing. In person, it looked like Shawn won it, and then you go back and watch it, and it was pretty much what you said, could have went either way. What do you think we're still underrating about Shawn that's, that we keep being surprised that he almost pulls it out against these guys he's not favored to beat?
I wasn't surprised, actually. Against Errol, I really thought that it was a style that Errol had never fought before, and I think that I've just kind of come to realize that Shawn Porter is going to be a terribly hard fight for anybody he fights. It doesn't really matter who, because no matter who it is, you're not really used to fighting that style. You're not really used to fighting that style, and Shawn's so good at the style that he fights at. So no matter who he fights, he's going to give them, all they can handle, if not win. I think he's, as high level as anybody in the welterweight division. So he's just not getting the edge when it comes to those close decisions. But I think the fans know, he's there. He might as well have won them because they can go either way. He beat Danny Garcia in an extremely close fight. That one went his way. The Thurman fight was super close, and then the Errol fight was super close too. So, and that's another one is Danny Garcia. I think that he will give anybody a run for his money too. I think people I think is the most underestimated in the welterweight division. I think it was between him and Shawn Porter before Shawn fought that fight against Errol and, did so well. I don't think he's too underestimated anymore because people see what he did against Errol. But Danny Garcia, I think, is another one who's very underestimated.
I was going to ask you about that down the line, but we should jump into it now. But before I ask you about Spence and Danny, though, is there a chance following this fight you could fight on that undercard?
There is a chance. Yep. Yeah, I've already heard that date from my people over at PBC. I've already heard that date being thrown around for me. So there's a high chance that I might fight on that.
Yeah, because we don't really have the outline for any undercard yet. So it would seem like, having a top young prospect like you would make sense to maybe open the show.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I very well could. So I'm looking forward to – I hope so. You know, when I fought on the Errol and Shawn undercard, and it was one of the best experiences I've had in my career so far, just being on such an awesome card overall. So hopefully I can get on there again.
Yeah, it was electric that night at Staples. It really was.
It was, man. What a night.
What a night. Yeah, I remember you being happy in the hotel afterwards with your family.
Very. Yeah, I was very happy. You know, I was just – that's one of the nights I think that, you know, I look back on as one of the – like I said, one of the best, you know, moments I've had in my career so far.
Right, because guys like De La Hoya and even Floyd, they remember those early knockouts on the undercards of big fights, now that you mention it, right? So
absolutely. And that being one, I said it after the fight when I was talking, maybe even to you, that was one of the best fights that I've, you know, that we've seen in the modern era. You know, it's one of those welterweight fights that are going to be known as a classic, you know, 10, 15 years from now, people are going to watch that fight. So to kind of be on a piece of history in that fight and just look back on it, it's just the whole thing was really surreal. So it was my first really big pay-per-view card I'd been on. You know, I think the other, you know, biggest – I'd been on a lot of good, you know, high-level cards, but that was like the first, you know, fight of the year, pay-per-view type fight that I had fought on, and then I had a really good performance. So I was proud of that one.
do you think that we get another classic in Spence and Danny Garcia?
I don't know if it'll be as much of a barn burner depending on what Errol comes out and does. I really think it's up to Errol because Danny Garcia is going to be a tough fight for him, I think, because of his counterpunching ability. You know, he's got underrated counterpunching, and if Errol comes in and tries to go for the knockout, I think that could turn it into a fight of the year type fight. So we'll see. It just depends. I don't think Danny's going to come out and try to do that to Spence. If Spence comes out and tries to do that to Errol, then if Errol comes out and tries to do that to Danny Garcia, then I think Danny, he's always going to fight back. So
would Errol fighting in that style give Danny more opportunities, you know, for that left hook, for that the counter left hook? Is that
yes, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. And you know, Danny has underrated head movement defense. He rolls a lot of shots off the shoulders and things like that. So people don't realize that is more difficult than, you know, people. This fight is more difficult than people think. You know, you got Errol Spence who wants to come forward, but he might need to stay on the back foot a little bit more and try to maintain distance and sharpshoot a little bit to try and it's kind of the way Thurman fought him. You know, Thurman fought him, he moved, and then he would strike, and then he'd move, and he'd pounce. You know, he didn't just go all out, balls to the wall, going up against Errol. So going up against Danny.
Maybe Errol kind of similar game plan to the Garcia fight. Like
that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
that's what if I were him.
Fight. Yeah.
Yep. If I were him, maybe that's how I would, you know, go about the fight.
Who do you think's the better puncher between the two?
Thing is, now, like these fights as they happen, like Danny fought Porter, Errol fought Porter, it can answer some of these questions, and it might be pretty similar. You know, if you look at those fights, they were similar fights. You know, Shawn just outworked Errol a little more than he was able to outworked. I keep getting them mixed up. He outworked Danny Garcia more than he was able to outwork Errol. He couldn't outwork Errol. He was able to outwork Danny by just a slight margin. But as far as the punching power, I mean, Danny landed some big shots against Shawn, but I think that Errol's got to have slightly, you know, more punching power than Shawn, just naturally being a bigger person, and he dropped Shawn. You can kind of look at that. Danny was never able to, but you definitely can tell that Danny's got some sharp punching at welterweight still. So he's a good puncher.
I mean, we're 3 months out, but who do you give the edge to 3 months out, though, if you had to pick someone?
I'd have to give this slight edge to Errol. I think that Errol's the best in the division, but there's so many good fighters in the division, so they're all good. You know,
and
they're all
coming
good.
Off that accident, so.
Yeah, that's true, but I just, from what we're seeing, you know, people say, and from what Errol's saying, and him being confident enough to go right into this fight, I don't think we're going to necessarily see too much ring rust there. I really don't. Maybe it'll be a slight factor, but just if he wasn't acting the way he is, then maybe I'd think so, but the way he's acting, it's just like it seems like he's extremely confident going into this one.
Yeah, major props to him for getting back in there with a killer after a year layoff and the accident, man.
Yeah, man, it's a different mentality. It's a different mentality he's got.
Yeah. But, back to you heading into Saturday night, what identity do you think you're forging in there as a professional right now?
I'm not really sure. I think we're going down that – as I'm going down this path, it's like I think that's going to, bring itself out more and more. It's just what, I'm representing and things like that. I know that I want to be known as a fighter who's, an exciting fighter and goes out there and puts it on the line and tries to, get the knockout. And I definitely want that to be part of my identity for sure. And other than that, the fans are going to have to really decide that. I don't have really anything that I'm trying to necessarily put out. It's just about what people receive, and we'll see how that plays out and what people, see in me as we go. I just want to try to be myself all the way through.
All right, some technical difficulties back with Joey Spencer. But Joey, do you ever touching on your identity in the ring?
Yeah.
I know you pride yourself on your boxing skills, which is important going forward or backward. But do you ever think you're best off, getting in there and walking guys down with your power and just because with Garbadella in that fight last year at Staples, you knocked him out in one round. Steps, beautiful double left hook. Yeah, is it possible that despite being slick, you're better off walking guys down?
Well, I've always, had an affliction for watching the warriors of boxing. This whole camp, I've watched a lot of one of my favorite fighters ever, which is Miguel Cotto. And those are guys that it's almost like they just don't make them like that anymore, And I've been watching a lot of Juan Manuel Marquez. I've been watching a lot of these guys. And these guys were, true warriors. They fought with balls, and they didn't, come in there to, necessarily, hide from a fight. And I'm also all about the sweet science in the science of boxing. So I'm somewhere in the middle because I'm also not someone who wants to fight stupid. But at the same time, if there's a war to be had, then, I want to be the guy who's there for it, who's ready for it, And I've always had that spirit since I was a kid in the amateurs. And, I love to be in a good dogfight. So and sometimes it's been one of my weaknesses throughout, even my career, just being, sometimes when I should box, I bang, But I think that's something that maybe the fans will appreciate. I know the fans talk about wanting that, and they want to see that and things like that. But so we'll see. And I don't really know how everything's going to play out, but I do know that I've got that in me, and I enjoy that part of the sport. So I'm definitely not going to shy away from that.
Do you think you've ever done the vice versa in the amateurs or professionals in the gym where you're boxing when you should bang? Because like you said, sometimes you banged when you should box. Is that
absolutely? Sometimes you can be in both. Sometimes you can just kind of get into, and that's why being able to adjust in the ring is so important. It's so important to be able to adjust in the ring, and because sometimes when you fall into a pattern of a fight, it's hard to get out of it. But you have to be able to adjust on the fly and change the game. And if something's not working or something's not working well enough, you got to be able to switch it on the fly.
Yeah, and all those guys you mentioned, they're highly skilled, but like you said,
yes,
they'll get into some exchanges. And
right, absolutely. And those weren't stupid fighters either. I've never been, I've never looked up to, or because that's, if you're just standing in the phone booth and just you hit me, I hit you, that's not boxing, and that's not what I'm a fan of. But I am a fan of the guys who are highly skilled and use their skills, but they're also extremely tough individuals. And, like even Roberto Duran, he was the toughest guy in boxing, but he was extremely scientific on the inside in the way that he fought. And I look up to those guys. He didn't fight stupid. He fought to his game plan, to his strengths. And he still had great defense on the inside. He got hit, though, and he was okay with getting hit. But he also had great defense just where he fought. But he commanded the part of the ring that he wanted, the ring generalship of it. And it was it's beautiful to watch when the game is like that.
And little known fact, you're half Mexican like Roberto Duran was. Isn't that right?
Yeah. My mom's side. So I didn't know Roberto was half. I didn't know that. And then what, Panamanian?
Panamanian, yeah. His dad was Mexican.
Awesome. That's cool, man. It's cool.
We got to start selling that, Joey. Some marketing, you know.
Yeah.
Always have Mexican people.
Yeah, well, if I don't speak any Spanish, so I don't know if I
That
could be
doesn't
able
stop Ryan
to.
Garcia.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, but I don't know. If they want to support me, I'm a fighting mother, so so I'll be I fight like one, when the time presents itself. So
It looks like, you watch a lot of Canelo.
I am a huge fan of Canelo. I'm a huge fan of Canelo, so I do love watching him, and I think he's my pound for pound top one or two, like he is a lot of people. So I love his style because him, again, he's not, you never see him really backing up, but he's right there. But you also see him not get hit as much as other people, but he's right in there, and he's in the phone booth, and he's throwing down. So I do like that style.
And yeah, he might be the slickest guy in the sport, but he's going forward. But
yeah, absolutely. It's the thing about him.
what do you think about the ESPN top 25 under 25? Obviously, they put you in the list and the honorable mentions, but does that give you any fire being passed up like that?
That was absolutely, I don't like to be the one to, like, if it's going to be presented to me, then I want it to be presented to me. And if it's not presented to me, I don't want to be the one to, like, bash it or, call for it, things like that. I think it was definitely off. It was definitely off. If you look at some of the people who, were in the top 20, I had a better record than some of the people that were in the top 25 in my first year. You know what I mean? That were in there. And I'm like, so, and I wasn't on, and I've had a lot of push. I've had a lot of things to be thankful for. And I've had, so much, but being underestimated, I think, is a good place to be in, because when I do get my opportunities to show everything that I'm made of, it's just going to surprise people. I know what I'm made of. I know what I can do. I see it every day. And I've got a lot of people who do know it, and a lot of people, on social media, that support me. A lot of people just in general that watch my fights and things like that. That's the thing about my people who do follow me is the people who do follow me, they follow me, man, like all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what it spoke to that when I had both years on the prospect of the year, the fan vote, I won it, and the people who came back, who were in charge of the voting, they were like, it's not even close. And I had some really good fighters who had great years on those lists, but my fans, man, like the ones that I have, they really just ride for me, and they're all the way for me. So, back to the 25 thing, and also it could have to do with the people who were in charge of the voting. You know what I mean? The people who were in charge of the voting, I don't know exactly who. I know Goosen was one of them, and I know that he thinks highly of me. I don't know what his votes were, but the other dudes I wasn't familiar with, and maybe they weren't as familiar with me. So, I mean, it's subjective. So it's subjective because there were some people on there that in the top 25, it's like they must just obviously be aware of them, or have seen them at the right time or things like that. Because like I said, I had even in my first year, I had more knockouts and wins than a lot of the people that were on there on national TV and things like that. So I was just like, I felt like I deserved a place on it, but I'm not crying over it because I've got a lot of opportunities. So I'm thankful.
How do you see this fight going this Saturday? Sean West, 5-1. He's never been stopped.
Yeah.
You think you're the first guy to get a knockout?
I believe so. I truly believe so. I'm in the best condition I think I've ever been in this COVID, and I just stayed working and tried to improve my game in every way I could. And naturally with that, I felt like I came to another level throughout this whole thing. And I feel like I've grown. I mean, at my age, every 6 months that goes by, your body gets stronger, you get older, it's just such a rapid change at this point. So I've definitely felt myself get stronger, even a little bit more size on me. We've gotten better. We've done a couple, trial things. Like I did a trial weight cut in between the fights, with no fight coming up, just to kind of hone in on our weight cut process and just make sure that we have all, that we cover all stops. So I think that this is going to be, a very good version of me, God willing. I want to come in there and do, my best, obviously, but I think that I have what it takes to be able to stop him for the first time. He's a tough dude, though, man. In all his fights, that's one thing that you do see. Like you said, he's never been stopped, and he has been hit. I've watched his film. He's been cracked, and he's a tough guy, and he's got a fighting spirit. He doesn't – that's what I'm excited about too, is he doesn't get hit and then, he doesn't get hit and then shy away when he gets hit, or and then play it cagey or anything. He gets hit, and he tries to hit back as soon as possible, and that's the fights I feel like I do well in. So.
Mm-hmm. And also wanted to ask you about, because thinking about fights down the line that could be really big. You and Lorenzo Simpson, I think.
Yeah.
Did you guys fight in the amateurs? And what would you think about that down the line,
Yeah, we fought in the amateurs, and I absolutely dogged him from post to post in his hometown. They gave him the decision. We were in Baltimore. If you don't believe me, next time you talk to Shakur Stevenson's coach, he was in the building. He'll tell you what happened that night, how big of a robbery it was. It was a good fight. I won't say it wasn't competitive, but I'm talking around the corners, around the ropes. I dogged him the entire fight. So I've seen he had a couple of things to say about me, and we were actually cool in the amateurs too, but I respect it because at the end of the day, there's no friends in this game, And at the end of the day, we're in the same weight class, so there can only be one. So I'm looking forward to seeing him down the road.
Yeah, what's the likelihood you guys think you fight and it's a title fight?
I think there's, likelihood. I think he and me are the guys who, are a couple of the guys who are, some of the best in this division at a young age, and I think that's cool. So when I say I think that's cool, like you've got the lightweight division and you got, Tank, Ryan, Teofimo, all them. We've got a lot of good guys in this division in 154, but me and him are the young guys. So that's cool for me to see us. We were the same age in the amateurs and things like that. And then now we're up here in the pros, and we're the young guys of the division. So he's, I forget who he signed to. I think he just signed to MTK. I'm with PBC. I think we're going to both keep, building up our careers. And then down the line, I think it could be a big fight. We're both, 20-some years. I'm 20. I don't know if he's exactly 20.
You guys are the
same age. So we're kind of on the same path. We almost have the same record. We're like, 10 fights into our careers. So things are progressing the way, pretty much the same way on both sides. So as we get older, we're both going to build more and more of a fan base, and we might be able to sell some tickets one day and fight.
And, call me crazy, but there's even just a little similarities in how you guys fight. Maybe it's because you're the same age, same American amateur program, but there's even some similarities in how you guys fight. But
yeah, absolutely. I think he thinks he's a little better than what he is. Definitely. I saw a little interview with him the other day on the Boxing Wars. I don't know was he talking about me on FightHype? Because I don't know. I saw it on the Boxing Voice.
No.
I saw it on the Boxing Voice. He was talking about this person's not on my level. This person's not on my level. This person. After I did see, and then I saw after my last fight, he tweeted about me, and it kind of caught me off guard because, like I said, we were cool in the amateurs, and but like I said, there's no friends in this game, and I understand it. I respect it even, but I saw him tweet about me, something about me going to distance with somebody with so-and-so record or with a bum or something like that. So I didn't respond. I thought about responding, and I was like, this is going to develop on his own. I kind of wanted to calculate, and respond at the right time. And then the next weekend, he goes to distance with somebody with like 20 losses. He had like I don't even know. He had under 5 wins. And I'm like, how'd that work out for you, buddy? Like, look, man, I'm one of the most – and, it's kind of annoying when people say they're humble, but I try to maintain a humble
you're a great guy, brother.
I try to maintain – when I say humble, I don't even just mean humble. As a fighter, you have to have spirit and you have to have confidence, no doubt about it. But when I say humble, I mean I know I'm learning in this game. I know I had a great amateur background, and I know that's going to carry me. But I also know I have a lot to learn. I have a lot to a lot of ways that I can progress in the game. And I'm young in my career still, and I know that. And I think that where people are going to, have downfalls is when they stop learning because they think they're above everybody else. You know what I mean? I think Lorenzo thinks he's a little bit higher than what he is, and I think he's going to get humbled. And if he doesn't, maybe I'll be the one to do it one day.
I can't wait to see that fight down the line. So see you young guys.
Absolutely.
Get out.
It's going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be great.